And good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Smudcast number 850. We are doing, since 2008, Marvel still can't get the Hulk right. Alas, what are we going to do with Mr. Hulk? We don't know. This is a video from Full Fat Videos. It came out, let me check, 7 days ago. Has over 120,000 views. Very good. And he's over almost 350,000 subs, so I'm guessing that's average for him. But this, I think, is in response to the latest MCU movie that came out a few days ago. And that
at least started because of that.
Yeah, everyone's talking about this new film, so obviously people are going to be reviewing it. And this is
you mean Brave New World, the one that came out today?
Oh, that was a few days ago. I didn't know it was today. Okay.
The overall release date is today. The public release date.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Thank you, Gigaman. I didn't know that. But yeah, I don't know anything about the film. I do know it's probably based off obviously the Endgame, because that's when everything changed, movie, as well as Winter Soldier, because that's like the trilogy. And
that's the best one.
Yeah, and they're trying to top that or continue that. It's kind of like the trilogy from Star Wars.
It's only recently that people started saying that Brave New World was a sequel to Incredible Hulk, the 2008 one, which my counter argument is like, where's Bruce in this movie? Come on, show me.
Oh God.
He's nowhere to be found in the movie, as far as I'm aware. So the argument falls on deaf ears.
Okay, well, this is I'm assuming the continuity, and I haven't watched either of these films. People have been talking about it for years, so I kind of picked up on stuff. And the continuity is Steve Rogers was never Captain America. And
No, this is still the main MCU continuity. It's post Endgame where Cap, after he goes back gave the shield to Sam.
Okay.
And Sam became Captain America.
Okay. Fair enough.
There was also an entire a Disney Plus show about it. Where it's just I gave it back. I gave it away, but then someone else had it. And it was like, no, I want it back. It was like, but you gave it to the museum. You didn't want it, and it was like, give that back.
The irony is that show is actually one of the few times they've actually done John Walker, the U.S. agent, any justice.
I wouldn't know. I don't know about that because they treat him like crap in the show. Well. The whole
in universe, yeah, but the actual character, they got it mostly right.
So stupid. I was like, I killed this terrorist. Stop calling them terrorists. It was like, you're a bad person. But he killed my black best friend. What the hell? Oh, good lord.
All right. Well, I, again, do not know the series, do not know the movies, but I have heard them over the years. Exactly. We're going to talk about the stuff that comes across as the Hulk in relation to this film, because I think they have the Red Hulk in there. I've seen some advertisements.
I feel it basically like in relation to the films in general, going off of the title.
Yeah.
What I would call Captain America, the biggest mismatch in history.
Yeah. Let alone a Captain America. Let alone a well, not if it's Banner and Rogers. Anyone else? Yeah. It's a mismatch.
All right.
Because Sam is not a super soldier at this point, even though they do imply in marketing material that there is supposedly enough super soldier serum for him to take.
Oh, really?
And also, apparently, his whole thing is vibranium. Even though, if we're talking about Red Hulk, his gimmick, unlike the regular Hulk, where he gets angrier, stronger the madder he gets, Red Hulk is that he could burst into flames and explode if he gets too angry. He can also absorb energy, such as the power cosmic from the Silver Surfer himself.
Yep.
So, yes, again, mismatch.
All right.
Very much so.
Interesting. Okay, well, this is 18 minutes and a half. Should be interesting, talking about the Hulk and in relation to the new film. Okay, here we go.
Yep.
Imagine if there was a new Superman movie coming with the Joker and Bane, and Batman had never fought them on screen ever, despite having his own movies. Well, that's exactly what's happening to the Hulk. I'm super psyched to finally see the leader fully transformed and unleashed on the big screen, as I am with Red Hulk.
Come on, guys!
But it's such a shame that they're going to be in a Captain America movie instead of a Hulk one. The MCU has played fast and loose with its villains before, and even next year we're going to see Doctor Doom's name in the title of an Avengers movie instead of a Fantastic Four movie. But to
Okay, but there's probably good reason for that.
No, there's not.
Well, think about it. Has the Fantastic Four done well ever at the box office that people would want to see?
But the issue is that the MCU has become way too Avengers centric for its own sake.
I think it's about marketing and what sells to these people, and I don't think the Hulk has. I think that the two Hulk films, 2003 and 2008, have done okay, but they haven't really, been a big seller to make the MCU execs go, "Oh yeah, we got to do a Hulk film."
The 03 film failed because people didn't quite understand how the Hulk actually works in his stories, while the movie itself did.
Well, there was also Hulk in Thor Ragnarok, I believe.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Good.
so he's they
A movie that doesn't get the Hulk either.
well, yeah, but they did a watered down version of one of his stories. I know that. So
That's an understatement.
you have to put what you can get, and to even get that Hulk in that version was interesting because I actually watched that film. So obviously it wasn't nowhere near as the comic, but then again, I'm not expecting the comic book. There's no way they could translate the comic book, especially since Endgame, into any proper adaptation that a fan would go, "Oh yeah, that's pretty good." No, it's going to be
not under the circumstances that we're building up to that point.
I could mostly say the animated stuff before the MCU did it.
It's like if you want Planet Hulk, watch the animated movie from the late 2000s.
The Lionsgate ones, yeah.
Yeah.
I think, it was, then, all I can recall is that they switched up like a Silver Surfer with a Beta Ray Bill. More or less to serve a similar purpose to get rid of the slavery disc.
Which honestly, I'm fine with.
I mean, I don't really mind.
Because ultimately it works.
So, yeah.
Anyway, there's lots of reasons why they're doing that, and honestly, after Endgame, they really have to know how to work the audience. What do they want?
Or they could have just stopped.
Well, no, they can't stop. It makes too much money, so they have to reinvent themselves and do so in an attractive way, and they're having a very hard time doing so.
Most likely because they're screwing themselves over with what you would call the multiverse office job, where hey, you know this premise from Endgame where we're conflating time travel and multiverse as the same concept? Well, guess what? Here's the sequel, and it's worse.
All right.
Sorry, you can keep going.
Okay.
Hulk particularly stings because he hasn't been given the focus, let alone the tone he deserves.
Bruh!
This is a deeply tragic character, one that has not only fallen out of relevance, but has had all the grit and what makes him interesting slowly stripped away.
I didn't see an end, so I put a bullet in my mouth and the other guy spit it out.
Which was that was a deleted scene, by the way. It's a deleted scene for 2008 Hulk that is canon, because that also gives the first. Because the aftermath of him trying to do that and failing at doing that is the reason why S.H.I.E.L.D. was able to rediscover Cap and frozen in the ice.
I'm pretty sure the whole bullet thing also happened in since this video is titled after the 2008 film, the 2008 video game. Was it a deleted scene on that one? I can't.
In the movie, it was a deleted scene. It was a deleted scene for the movie. They might have reinstated that scene in the game. I don't remember.
I know it came out before the 2012 one, so I guess.
Yeah, well, a lot of those movie tie-ins came out before the movie, so.
Yeah, I guess.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they incorporated that scene into the game because it was part of an earlier draft. But. Even with the flaws in 2008, it's like that scene is de facto Hulk. The fact that he tries to kill himself and the Hulk just says no.
Well, I mean, I do actually have a page from one of Peter David's novels of What Savage Beast is actually a good segment for this, where Dr. Hansen, while describing the Major Talbot, reading the dialogue, we displayed them or we don't. depending on our choices, not Bruce. He spent years with the entire world a witness to the creatures that exist within him. That he didn't just open his wrist or blow his brains out ages ago is one of the greatest testimonies to the strength of the human spirit I've ever known. And then going a little... So, don't you stand there and tell me that he's a monster undeserving of a shot at simple happiness. He's shown more nobility of spirit and character than anyone. I know, more determination in the face of hardship than you or I will ever be called upon to display in our lifetimes. Leave him the hell alone. Yeah.
Alrighty.
All right.
It feels like salt in the wound that his number one nemesis, the leader, is making his big screen debut without fighting the Hulk. It
Too
would
little,
be
too
like
late.
doing a Craven movie
that
without
is-
Spider-Man. Imagine that. We need a new Hulk movie to recenter him as the focus and make up for lost time. Maybe we even need a new Hulk altogether.
That's literally what happened in Brave New World, though.
Before I get into the nitty gritty, please subscribe with the notification bell on if you want more Marvel videos, including an upcoming full fat breakdown of Brave New World. If you've been missing the podcast, then you can now watch fully edited cutdowns on the Full Fat Podcast channel, which I'll be linking in the description below. So far
Shut
we've
up,
talked
advertisement.
Severance, Alien Earth,
Yeah.
and the... Do this video? Well, it has a little bit of course to do with Captain America
All
and
right.
Brave New World having such huge Hulk connections, but the impetus for this video actually came from a long overdue rewatch of Ang Lee's 2003 Hulk adaptation,
Here we go.
Hulk.
Oh, this is gonna get good.
I can't remember
There's
the
gonna be
last
plenty
time
to say
I
on
saw
this.
it, and whilst I did enjoy it a fair amount as a kid, even then it was impossible to ignore the negative reception. I didn't come back to it like I did the other superhero movies of that time, like X2 or Spider-Man 1 and 2, or even Daredevil. It had a lot of talking and not so much smashing, and without any kind of strong critical consensus, it was easy to ignore. I still like The Incredible Hulk a great deal, and we'll touch on that movie in a minute, but I actually think that Ang Lee's Hulk is the stronger adaptation of the character.
Yes.
It captures the tragedy of the character better than any other live-action iteration, and because of his father's presence in the story, is probably the most faithful adaptation of the comics.
You know what scares me the most? Is it when it happens, and I totally lose control. I like it.
I get why this was maligned at the time, but it's only aged better and better as the genre has become increasingly homogenized and oversaturated. Given the reaction to the smallest traces of artistic intent in Multiverse of Madness, I still think the comic book panel style editing flourishes would get its haters today, but probably so many more defenders too.
Yeah, there is absolutely a clashing tones in that movie, but
That editing
the-
was...
yeah. It's been talked to death. We get it, but that aside, it's like the more time passes, like you said, the more time passes, the more people look back on this movie more and more fondly. Especially with the more that it's shown that the MCU does not get the Hulk, the more people see that Ang Lee's movie did get the Hulk down to a T. Because the entire arc of that movie is of Bruce obviously becoming the Hulk, smashing around and all that, but it also has the psychological element that spans as far back as the original comic run.
I mean,
And
there's
does-
also
and does
another
it-
thing you forgot in terms of the origin, where it's like, what else? Besides, like, Bruce's dad killing his mom, there's also Bruce Banner's, risking his life to save another guy from being gamma radiated, just like how he went to the trenches with Rick Jones and then got himself dosed.
The movie does change that. That's pretty much every element of that scene, minus Bruce getting bombarded with gamma, but it very much gets the point across of Bruce being, despite being so emotionally distant, still being willing to put himself on the line to save someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a stark contrast to what actually happened to him as a kid, that he repressed and bottled up and eventually was released by the gamma radiation as the Hulk. And it's like, and even the movie itself says, it's like, the Gamma just released what was already there. And Betty says, released what? And Bruce says, me. And when he says me, he means the real me, the real him, the real Bruce. The one that he's been holding back for all those years.
I mean, there's also, like, the gray one, but that's another story.
That's the only reason why he was gray at first, was the whole thing with the printers back then not being able to print out a consistent gray
and then,
for the Hulk. And then they decided on green because the printers could print green more easily and more consistently.
Yeah, I get
And
the origin.
And then they explained it in the comics with some mumbo jumbo there that made the whole thing make sense.
Okay, it was like an ordeal with like John Byron. You know, like the Nutrient Beth in the '90s cartoon, where Bruce.
Oh yeah, that yeah.
They did that from the comic, but Rick Jones got in and got the part of the Green Hulk, where Bruce Banner got the remaining rest, which is the Gray Hulk, or what he's known as Joe Fixit, which is pretty much just like the perverted morals of Bruce Banner, who's more articulate, but he's weak to sunlight. And he's not as strong as the main Hulk. But a lot of stories still focus on that psychological dynamic between Banner and Hulk, which this movie, while it doesn't do it perfectly, it still does it pretty well. Mm-hmm.
So, like, we can talk about the wonky editing all we want. We talk about CGI that doesn't look as real as it should, but the message does get across, and ultimately the arc concludes with Bruce facing his demons.
And quite literally facing off against his own father, who, well, for some reason became a Zorby man. But
which, as an aside, I do like that with Brian Banner, they do name him David Banner in the movie as a nod to the 70s live-action show.
And they have, Lou Ferrigno in that movie?
As a cameo, yeah.
Yeah, they actually have him in the movie.
Yeah, and then because that influenced the comics to have Brian Banner's middle name in the comics be David, in response to the 2003 movie.
The Vixen.
Brian David Banner.
Yeah.
Needless to say, it's like the 2003 movie. The more we look at it, the more a lot of people realize that this movie did really get the Hulk pretty much almost perfect in terms of what the actual stories about the character were about back then.
Yeah, it's just a matter of what is it again with the whole editing, and then some areas where it's just this is a bit dull.
I mean, even it wasn't going to be perfect, even if it was the action movie, Hulk smash action movie people were expecting it to be.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's another thing because I've read a bunch of stories with the dude. So.
At the very least, it did get the psychological aspect of Hulk stories pretty much right from the get-go.
All right.
So we can definitely give it credit for that.
At least.
I think the editing in this movie is awesome. It's
Really?
kind of a precursor to what the Spider-Verse movies would eventually do, albeit better. I appreciate the idea of trying to create the panel-to-panel compositions of a comic book, and it's just one of many ways Ang Lee embraces the source material. This Hulk spends the majority of his time in bright purple pants, and in spite of the dark narrative in play, it's a colourful and oftentimes delightfully goofy movie. It works because the material is taken seriously. At the heart of the story is a parable about how our parents fuck us up, about how generational trauma shapes us, and how we store the pain that comes from that trauma.
Well, in this case, it's accurate.
In such a way
I
that
know.
it has no way out.
I just don't like how
to manifest.
I don't like how people muddled trauma.
Destructive way.
Yeah, trauma was just so muddled.
Well, maybe generational is the wrong word.
Definitely not. No.
Well, at least trauma passed down from your parents. Because in that way.
Let's get two things clear, Ginga. First, Bruce was born in Ohio, so that's expected he would be screwed. Second, before Banner was out of the womb, Brian was like, I don't care, I need a drink. It's my life is suffering, I hate this.
No, not even that. Further than that, because he was on what I can only assume is the Super Soldier Project, just like in the comics where they tried to replicate Captain America. Brian Banner was experimenting on himself in order to get results and also be able be able to have the
movie.
power for himself.
Oh, right, the movie. Not like the...
No, it is like that in the comics and the movie.
No, I
That's part of the
I would
reason.
not go with the super soldier thing because...
But that is what it came from. Even back in the comics, it was eventually established that the military and the government were trying to use Gamma in a similar way that Bruce became the Hulk. Try to replicate
that's the ultimate version of the character. The whole
that's
super
still
soldier thing wasn't that, but it's like
but that's
that happened
decent
around the
take on it.
2008 one. But for the most part, the gamma radiation was kind of more like we could call it like nuclear radiation for say like World War II. But more or less, gamma is supposed to be some attempt to make so the atomic age. Still around with like the Cold War. They wanted to see if they can make a safer alternative than just dropping an atom bomb. I believe that's the whole thing I read in the original stories. But yeah, later on, you are right where they wanted to do a whole super soldier thing, but that's like
but then again I do like that Ang Lee's movie takes that aspect from the Ultimate universe where the Gamma experiments were to recreate Captain America and actually like do a nice spin on it where Brian Banner was actually the one that tried to take it for himself. Hey, it's not all that good of a concept, but it's at least something interesting to springboard off of.
Well, it's definitely better than talking about intergenerational trauma, if that's even a thing to some people, but, you know.
Yeah, like I said, generational trauma is probably the wrong word, but at the very least,
it's
domestic.
I guess you could say it's like jargon, but whatever.
It is definitely familial trauma, to be sure.
Okay.
Domestic trauma.
Let's keep going.
Eric Banner captures all the inner turmoil of Bruce Banner in excellent fashion, but this role would be nothing without the central antagonist of the piece, possibly one of the most underrated comic book movie villains of all time, Nick Nolte as Bruce's father. Again, I see...
Or just Nick Nolte playing Nick Nolte.
Well, part of the Brian Banner's attitude here is like, well, the basic thing of he treats the Hulk as his real son and throws Bruce by the wayside because the Hulk is basically a direct result of what what David in this case tried to do on himself, and was fearful of what Bruce was becoming, even when he was a baby.
When he came out the very womb, he noticed a monster. He didn't see a son; he saw a monster.
He saw the Hulk before anyone else did.
Well, I'm just wondering if they put him through makeup or wardrobe. It seems like just called him
it's just yeah. I mean, yeah, the performance is definitely over the top. But again, this is a man 30 years after he accidentally kills his wife and trying to kill his son, and then living with it for 30 years.
Didn't he look like a more like look at his hair in this scene where it's like all like he was in an asylum right after he killed his wife, but he
was imprisoned for 30 years because of what happened.
Yeah, he was imprisoned for 30 years. So
imprisoned by Ross, by the way, which gives Ross more of a personal stake in all of this.
Yeah, I get the idea, but I'm just saying, did he look like that before, like after?
No, it was as a result of living with what he did for 30 years.
Yeah, because if I recall, Brian was a bit more like Brian Banner was a bit more like clean shaven, like I guess you could say a little messy, but not.
Well, Brian Banner, Brian Banner, the day of the accident, during that period where he was on the Gamma Project, it's like he was like. Decent haircut, just mustache, just like he looked just like an average dude.
Yeah, because I know he goes out most of the time and lets like a horrible nanny take care of Banner.
It's the fact that Brian Banner is so far gone at this point that he leaves himself looking like this as a reminder of what he did.
Yeah, definitely being institutionalized and all that.
Then on top of having like 30 years worth of living with whatever genetic modifications he made to himself even before and after Bruce was born.
Oh, brother.
Which adds to everything else. So and also at this point Brian has powers too. He's basically the Absorbing Man. Which it's weird that they make Brian Banner the Absorbing Man, but for the purposes of the story they told, it's like it kind of fits with what actually happens.
Yeah, it's just kind of like a weird ordeal.
And it's like, and the over-the-top acting is just, it explained in universe as, again, his mental state having deteriorated to such a point where he gives a shit about nothing but his son being the Hulk in his eyes. So, like, wanting that power for himself after so long. So it all connects at this point.
All right. We're at 5 minutes.
Right, at the time, especially when comic book movies were delivering on their biggest villains straight away in the first outing. See Magneto, Green Goblin, Kingpin. He's a departure from the comics in that he's an amalgamation of the father's backstory and C-list villain, the Absorbing Man. I think the second part is what put people off. I wonder, had David Banner's third act power trip manifested as an evil
He might be
Hulk,
B-list the most,
a
but
la
anyway.
the tried and tested Dark Mirror superhero villain trope, would this have been received better if the story had still dug into all those juicy themes, but ended with a more blood-pumping fisticuffs finale, a la the next movie in the franchise? But having said that, his powers make sense for the theme of the story, and his presence in the movie is fantastic. This is the best Hulk adaptation because it is so far the only one that really touches on Bruce's horrible childhood. His father was a piece of shit in the comics, and this movie only brings it to the forefront. Across the course of the story, we uncover the repressed memories haunting Bruce, how his father cursed him with the Hulk from birth, then tried to kill him to fix his own mistake, only resulting in the murder of Bruce's mother. The Hulk is often portrayed as childlike, but this movie really nails why, and the connection his mother shares with flowers is beautifully illustrated in a poignant moment when nature is the thing that can finally calm the Hulk down. This connection is all visual storytelling and never explicitly stated. There is also, of course, the fact that Betty clearly reminds him of his mother.
Very
A combination of Bruce's trauma as he comes face to face with his father, power hungry and hell bent on rejecting him in lieu of what he describes as his real son, is heartbreaking. And it all comes to a wonderful crescendo when Bruce proves he and the Hulk are one. David wants the Hulk's power, and the Hulk's power is rooted in Bruce's childhood trauma, so in an epic moment, he tells him he can have it. He can have it all.
Take it! Take it all!
I love the physical payoff to this, seeing David Cronenberging into a massive gelatinous cloud bursting at the seams from the Hulk's pain. This movie reminds me of Man of Steel in many ways. Unfairly judged at the time of release, more unique and thought-provoking than it is given credit for, a film that would have been better received in the current superhero landscape as opposed to its original release.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's like Man of Steel is still fundamentally wrong about how it portrays its main character, as opposed to the Ang Lee film, where Ang Lee and the production team were very meticulous and very specific about how they portrayed the Hulk and Banner in such a way where they get the message across of how this shit works with them.
No superpowered son, don't save me. So stupid.
And again, this is one of the. I'm pretty sure this is the most direct way that Bruce has dealt with the trauma that Brian Banner has caused him. Even more direct than in the comics.
I mean, I'm pretty sure in his own psychological psyche, he had to deal with two renditions of his own father.
He had to deal with
Devil Hulk, and the other one being Guild Hulk. Which yeah.
Well, no, it's like the whole thing where that Brian Banner explodes in with excess gamma energy. It's like that is a callback to Devil Hulk, where Devil Hulk is just strong enough to do that at will. And that's just, and again, in the actual scene, Bruce is just letting out all of his trauma, all of his repressed emotions through the vehicle of giving all of his gamma power to Brian. And it being too much for Brian to handle. again, it just works.
They both have seriously underrated themes. The Hulk 2003 theme doesn't get spoken about nearly enough. It's equal parts epic and haunting and insanely memorable. This movie is really worth a look or a rewatch if, like me, you hadn't seen it since the 2000s. I felt a level of catharsis watching this Hulk movie that I haven't felt with the MCU Hulk ever, and I think any Hulk film in the future absolutely must tackle the tragedy with as deft a hand as this movie. Do you also have a soft spot for Hulk 2003? Could you be convinced to give it another go based on this video? Let me know in the comments below, especially if you do go away and watch it and come back here to give me your verdict.
Yeah, and again, I'm pretty sure the 2003 movie was really the first time on a greater scale than any other adaptation that actually shows the backstory with why the Hulk exists and what actually happened all those years ago that led up to Bruce being the person that he was prior to becoming the Hulk. It's like it just brings all of those elements of the original stories and it culminates everything into a very precise and a very detailed, I would say, way of showing what were the exact events that led up to the creation of the Hulk and how Bruce deals with that after that point and how he actually finally does confront his demons with Brian.
It's a little...
I know that's a bit much for a movie that was derided back when it came out, but
I mean
even 22 years later, it's like this is still a really good adaptation of Hulk, and I'm glad more people are seeing it that way.
Like, all right, I mean, I would agree, but it's like I would not call it entirely like an underrated gem masterpiece. Is most
I would
considering it's like I've seen like a lot of other stories they could have adapted. And especially considering the animated stuff tend to has more better luck with the character, but yeah,
fair. Which is a fair counterpoint, but at the same time, Hulk 2003 was still a pretty decent attempt.
I mean, there's also like other influences that movie came through after it got released. Like let's see, there's the game that also borrowed some of the movesets for the best Hulk game, Ultimate Destruction,
which in itself led to Prototype.
Oh, yeah.
Funny how we wouldn't have Prototype without Ang Lee's Hulk. If you really think about it.
Oh, hell yeah.
Honestly. It's like, as an aside, it is quite funny that, yeah, we had Ang Lee's Hulk. Then we got the video game adaptation, semi-adaptation from Radical Entertainment, which is actually a pseudo-sequel that takes place 8 years after.
Yeah, and all of that is borrowed from, like, Hulk Ultimate Destruction, which borrowed from the 2003 game.
The Hulk Ultimate Destruction borrowed a lot more from the comics.
Well, yeah, I'm just asking about, like, the whole Prototype thing from the Ang Lee, like...
Yeah. It's like, we have the Ang Lee movie game, we have the Ang Lee Hulk movie game, which is a pseudo-sequel to the movie. Then they did something completely different with Ultimate Destruction, which is more in line with the comics. And was which was a much better Hulk experience as a result. It's a great game from what I've heard, and I'm planning on playing it at some point. And then they took that whole thing, and then they made their own thing with Prototype.
Yeah.
So
crazy.
So like in its own weird way, the Ang Lee Hulk movie had that like specific influence on things down the line, you know?
An impact. Yeah, definitely a lot more than the MCU Hulk, that's for sure.
We'll probably get to that later in this video.
Let's see.
The Incredible Hulk might be set in a new continuity and function as the second MCU movie, but it shares a lot of DNA with the first Hulk movie. It operates as a sequel to Hulk 2003 because it originally was, before Universal and Marvel decided to make it a reboot, since reboots were all the rage at the time. When you look at both movies, it's easy to see how this was once Hulk 2. Banner ends his first movie on the run in South America, and starts the second movie on the run in South America.
I would say,
looking back, if I can say this, I'm looking back knowing how people see Hulk 2003 now, it would have been wild for the MCU one to be a sequel to that.
I am a little iffy with that, considering they do show like a bit of the origin, and it was a bit different from the Ang Lee one.
Well, that was as a result of the rewrites.
Yeah,
because of Universal handling.
Yeah, so I'm a bit I get the idea, but it's like it's a bit iffy. People are saying it is like a direct sequel.
That's just people being dumb.
Yeah, it's just a whole rewrite thing. I get the idea, but it's like I don't know.
I honestly wouldn't have minded if it was still a sequel and they'd kept Eric Bana and everything.
Yeah.
Like, that would mean that Ang Lee's Hulk would have been the first MCU movie. And that would have been hilarious.
Yeah, to quote Red Letter Media, it's a soft reboot.
Not even that, honestly.
Had already faced the Hulk, and it's said that Banner had been on the run for 5 years. 5 years before 2008. 2003, you say? Betty Ross and Banner reconcile in a way that could feel like a follow-up to how things were left for the pair in 2003. Even the villains feel like your classic superhero movie sequel villains. In place of an existential threat from childhood trauma in the form of an absorbing man David Banner concoction, we just got the infamous, smashing Abomination. Even the presence of the leader being set up here feels like standard fare for part 2 of a Hulk trilogy.
Especially since the leader was in the video game adaptation of the 2003 movie.
Yeah, speaking of like Blonsky, he was mostly insane from what I call in the 2008 movie, where it's like, again, we mentioned with Ultimate Destruction, he wants revenge for what Banner did to his wife, or at least, well, his experiment.
Yeah.
So it's just like, yeah, Blonsky's a bit forgettable, sadly, but it's like,
he's a lot better. They do him more justice in Ultimate Destruction, let's be honest.
Absolutely.
Voiced by Ron Perlman, too. But that's a whole other discussion. The point here being, it's like, there's a lot of stuff from that original Hulk 2 idea did still carry over. That can't be denied, so...
Yeah.
I honestly wouldn't have minded if it was a sequel. Because it has so much from that original sequel concept anyway. It just would have decanonized the game. That's all that would have happened.
Mm-hmm.
If the Incredible...
Yep.
If the Incredible Hulk...
There it is. It's mine, come on.
If the Incredible Hulk had starred Eric Bana, Jennifer Connelly and Sam Elliott, alongside Tim Roth and Tim Blake Nelson, this would easily be a sequel in continuity, if not in tone. I'd liken the switch up from going to Batman Returns to Batman Forever.
Your entrance was good, his was better.
Much like how Man of Steel went big on the action after its predecessor was criticised for a lack of excitement, The Incredible Hulk goes way harder on the smashing in attempts to make up for previous box office inadequacies. This unfortunately meant losing the nuances of the 2003 effort. This is still a great time and still a great Hulk, and it would have been so cool to see more solo movies. But I think
if you ask me, 2008, while decent in its own right, I personally think that it was a bit too much of an overcorrection from 2003, considering 2003, as I said earlier, it's like covered the much deeper themes of the Hulk as a whole. And 2008, because of the rewrites from from Universal and Marvel after Iron Man, it's like it definitely did still lose something for transitioning from being Hulk 2 to being the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, I think, I haven't seen this movie in a while, but mostly from what I can remember, it's just like Hulk beefing with the military.
It lost a lot of the nuance that the Ang Lee movie had.
Yeah.
Which it gets the bare bones basic idea of Hulk stories down, where it's like, he's the Hulk smash, it's like fights the military and everything, but again, Ang Lee was the one that nailed the psychological aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Which is just as important as the action, especially if you go back to the old comics from the 60s and 70s.
You also do have a bit of the whole ordeal with the whole Beauty of the Beast, where, well, Betty's kind of more or less his incentive to just get back up again.
Yeah, to not give up, to never lose control.
And
That
he
whole
just
thing.
crap
Yeah.
out of people. Yeah.
Well, that's secondary to the other
That's a
stuff we've been
final
talking
fight,
about.
at least. But,
Yeah, it's like that. That's ultimately just secondary to a lot of the deeper stuff involving the Hulk and Banner.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, it's like it definitely did lose something being rewritten as a reboot.
It could, I could warrant, if this was Grey Hulk and he was just talking down to ignite like Abomination, he's just taking off his composure and like, I'm not afraid of dying, but you'll be afraid of living.
I do want to remind that the 2003 movie game and Ultimate Destruction do have Joe Fixit as an unlockable.
The nerd logic right here.
Well, it's like he smack talks and everything. By the way, but setting that aside, let's go back to like the actual like Hulk stuff.
The new Hulk movie would do well to draw on Ang Lee's heartbreaking and morose iteration, as well as drawing on the awesome action of this 2008 variant.
Hulk!
Yeah, the thing is that Hulk was always
Hulk
both.
vs. Abomination is still one of the best one-on-ones the MCU has.
So Hulk was always both a psychological thriller and essentially an action monster movie, like it's shown like in this very scene. Let me just yeah, like Hulk smash. So it's like the best Hulk stories were always both. It was never one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And Ang Lee's movie did have a much more accurate balance between those two than Incredible Hulk did. And again, like I said, it sucks that because of the rewrites, it did lose a lot of that nuance. That Ang Lee's movie had more of, while not being perfect, it still had more of that and still portrayed it more accurately. So, there's that. Yeah, I know it hurts to say that for some people, but...
just be sure this isn't like the Guild Hulk, where he could just quite literally snap Hulk's back in the mind. Oh, God.
It's like... And just to be clear, it's like I'm not saying it's a masterpiece. I will argue it's underrated, but it's just the fact that that's just one of the moments where it's like we didn't realize how good we had it until it was gone. Especially now with stupid ass Smart Hulk and everything. I'm just like, God, what happened?
If I were to call with like Professor Hulk, he still retains the other aspects of the other Young Hulks, but
because
let's just say in What Savage Beast, with the whole conflict where Samson and Talbot were in a discussion, that happened because Hulk committed an international war crime in Transvaal, and he was smiling.
Wasn't that the thing that got him sent away in Planet Hulk?
No, that's much later. That is much later. This is the 90s.
Okay. But it's like, again, to go back to the original point, it's like Hulk was always just as much about the angry giant green man smashing as it was exploring the psychology between the man and the monster.
I mean, there's also like Shadow of the Golem, where Hulk agreed to help this little girl overthrow like a terrible dictator and be their golem, but when he managed to liberate the people from the dictator, the people would be like, "Oh, you're a golem, you're gonna be our king." But Hulk smashed the amulet they gave him. He's like, "No, I did this just so that girl doesn't cry."
Yeah, and another thing about Hulk, just in general, in some of his better stories, is like whenever he's given the chance to show it, he is surprisingly honorable. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, I know.
When push comes to shove, it's like he's not gonna pick a fight that he doesn't have to.
Yeah, he doesn't want to see innocent people get hurt. That's for pay. He can't let it go.
It's like, if anyone in Marvel deserves to be called an honest-to-God true hero, it's the Hulk. Especially in more recent years. He's
considered one of the most benevolent characters in the Marvel Universe.
Benevolent?
Yeah, benevolent.
Yeah, benevolent.
Yeah,
but I get your point. It's like, and again, it's like, he's not going to pick a fight he doesn't have to. It's like, you mess with him, he's going to fuck you up, but he's, at this point, with the control he has now, he's not gonna throw the first punch unless you absolutely deserve it.
It's what Samson said. Leave him the hell alone.
Exactly. It's like he wants peace just as much as anyone else wants peace away from him. So that's the nuance we've lost in recent years. That's just damn.
Hulk vs. Abomination is still one of the best one-on-ones the MCU has ever delivered. Whilst the Hulk was put to great use in the Avengers, even this aspect of him has declined. I wouldn't have been surprised to see the MCU strip him of his darkest aspects, but to strip him of the smashing too, that is insane. Thanos literally beat the Hulk out of Banner in Infinity War, which was of course an awesome, iconic moment, but from there the rematch we were begging for never came.
This is where I spent a blip fixing myself and integrating the Hulk Banner identities.
The character's biggest growth, finding reconciliation between Banner and the Hulk, happened off screen, and from there we got Dude Bro Professor Hulk.
Again, yeah, this was vastly different from the comic where he had the
the comic where this happened is one of the most iconic stories the characters ever had.
My favorite one, the best one, and they just skipped over that.
Because that was after decades of dealing with the trauma, dealing with the dual personality, dealing with the wanton death and destruction the Hulk's caused, not to mention the damage on Bruce's psyche. It all culminated in that story where they finally reconciled and finally became one person. where he was as strong as the Hulk has ever been, and as smart as Bruce has ever been.
Also, don't forget cunning, Joe. But
yeah, the cunning of Joe Fixit, the confidence and cunning of Joe Fixit as well. It was the perfect fusion between every aspect of Bruce's entire being put together into the man he was always meant to be. Just straight up.
And apparently it was, according to the novel again, this was only a bit of a first step into his recovery, more or less.
Yeah, it's like that was Bruce just essentially taking the thing of like what man strives for is to be whole, not to be perfect.
Well, I do remember
and Bruce in that story took it to a very literal sense.
I do remember in Ragnarok where they took, was it Worldbreaker Hulk? I can't remember which version of
Green Scar.
Was it okay?
No.
The Green Scar Hulk, yeah.
Oh, I don't think he appeared in that movie because Green Scar is a bit.
It was just in the movie. In the movie, it was just Hulk in some gladiator armor. That's literally it.
Kind of, yeah. There was no backstory behind why, aside from he was there and he just stayed as the Hulk until he transformed. And it was all played for laughs. It wasn't that big a deal.
Yeah, and they also spat in the face of what the Green Scar is meant to represent in Hulk's legacy.
No, he didn't even appear at all. From what I recall.
No. What I mean is that they used the look of it, like the armor and stuff, without any of the significance whatsoever.
Yeah, it just like Hulk from Age of Ultron just flew the ship somewhere else, and then he just landed there somehow.
Just ended up on Sakaar. Yeah, he ended up on Sakaar somehow. Even though it was never implied that the Quinjet was even remotely space worthy.
Yeah, he just flew away, and was gone for 2 years, and then he just ended up in another planet for some reason. Ugh.
Yeah.
It was not of the two as advertised, but just the comedy aspects of Bruce Banner in a green getup. Hulk vs Thanos round 2 should have gone down, and he should have calmly dismantled him using technique rather than strength to show how this is now the ultimate form of the Hulk. I love that he learnt jiu-jitsu from Roger Gracie in the 2008 movie. What a payoff it would have been for the Hulk to use it rather than just attacking with blind rage 11 years later in Endgame. Since then, the character has been used exactly twice in small roles, Shang-Chi and She-Hulk. There's a reason why Professor Hulk isn't a mainstay of the comics. Once this new equilibrium is reached, there is nowhere for the character to go. He must inevitably have to regress and go back to the previous duality for there to be any drama worthwhile. The Hulk never really explored his pain in the MCU, and before he had a chance to, all his problems were sorted. Even his villains have been made limp since the days of the Incredible Hulk. The new characterization for the Abomination is just that, an abomination. The 2008 movie.
Also, they commit the cardinal sin of letting Blonsky change back. When the entire tragedy of that character is that he becomes the Abomination to take revenge on Bruce and the Hulk, only to realize that he's stuck that way.
Yeah, he cannot turn back. That's actually one thing I would note the Ultimate Destruction game, besides, well, him becoming bigger in the final battle. But yeah, he could turn back to human, but he cannot turn back in the comics. Not at all. Absolutely not. Especially in the time after the countdown event where he got his face melted by toxic waste. And then he decides to go to Nadia.
Yeah, that made it even worse.
Ugh.
It's like, yeah, it's like that character was definitely spaned and neutered off screen. Like, it's fine that he looks comic accurate now, but why does he change back for no reason now?
Oh, yeah.
Why can he control it that easily now?
Also, apparently he's quote-unquote more reformed, even though in the first movie he's a complete psychopath. And he's just agreeing to what Juan... Like, he's trying to face off Juan in some, like, tournament thing, which created a bunch of other plot holes. But
yeah, I'm just like... I'm pretty sure Blonsky might have been put through rehab after The Incredible Hulk. And especially since that movie up to...
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while,
been like it's over like a decade and a half by that point. Like also taking account the 5-year skip in Endgame. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, I get that idea, but it's like Juan just willingly just allowed this gamma-rated man to just go into like this tournament. It's like, yeah, I just want a challenge from this guy in a fight and whatever. And it's like, oh, I'm fighting him.
I mean, that fight was funny, but I'm just like, it's like that fight was funny, and again. I'm glad he does finally look comic accurate, but when was he able to change back and forth at will?
You know, how did Juan even know about Blonsky and then got him out of jail?
Probably met him before that very fight that same day.
I mean, like, okay, so apparently they wanted to make Juan the whole Sorcerer Supreme because apparently Strange just gave it up, I guess, and then decided, I need a strong opponent.
No. So, Strange got snapped, remember? So they needed a replacement and one took it up.
Yeah, I get, but then they just didn't give it back, and then it was like...
the weird thing, the stupid thing is the fact that Wong didn't give it back.
I don't, yeah, and then he just decided, you know what, I'm gonna go break out this prisoner, and then fight him in the middle of, like, this, crime, like...
You know what, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and assume Blonsky broke out on his own. At least.
All right.
I don't know. It's confusing.
We don't know. I'm just trying to logic my way out of that. But again, it's like the Hulk's villains have also gotten the short end of the stick, just like Hulk himself has.
All right.
Yeah.
Here is the thread knot for the 5. Thank you, sir. Yeah, Hulk being a Mary Sue of another story is one of the many issues with Endgame, and now one of his villains is being fought by Captain Falcon.
By Sam's Captain America.
Was Hulk a Mary Sue in Endgame? I mean, was it?
Yeah,
I don't know what he really did in Endgame.
Not really, well, first of all, Bruce tried to figure out the time travel and failed, and it was acknowledged in universe that he failed.
Well,
so
when you're saying you have a character from another story being a Mary Sue, that implies in that story they're a Mary Sue. So if you talk about, let's say, Mary Poppins, she technically is a Mary Sue, but the story's not about her, even though she's in the title. She's just sort of there along for the ride, whereas the main story with Mary Poppins is the family. So you can get away with that, provided she's not, or the main character who is a Mary Sue is not causing everything to happen.
You know what? Another example is the fact that Hulk is the one that ends up doing the reversing Thanos' snap near the end, even though, as far as fucked up as Thor has been for the past 5 years leading up to that point, logically the gauntlet should go to him because he's still a god.
Yeah, and then Hulk did snap, and apparently his own harm couldn't heal blood.
Yeah.
That was weird. The man with the greatest healing factor couldn't heal a big burnt arm from the stone gauntlet. Okay. For how many years? I don't know. Ugh. Oy vey.
Anyway, declaring it's a very difficult thing to talk about a Mary Sue in another story being a side character or in an ensemble cast where there's so many characters and they're all super powered, you really have to know the level of magic or whatever the idea is, because there's so many characters in a comic book ensemble like the Avengers or Infinity War that it's sort of hard to say, okay, this person's overpowered, that person's it's like they're all super powered. You don't know exactly what's going on. So in those regards, you can sort of say, okay, there's a different scale you use for measuring the Mary Sue, unless there is a character who's like on par with Thanos, and you're like, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense. So anyway, 12 minutes, almost 13 minutes.
In which he debuted has a lot of story problems, but Emil Blonsky was a highlight. It was interesting to see him go on a quest to restore his aging body, first as a super soldier, and then as a combination of that serum and the blood of the raging Hulk. He was captured by an awesome intensity in Tim Roth, and there was really nothing funny about this character whatsoever. So cut to She-Hulk, and he was turned into this hippy-dippy loser.
Metaphysically, spiritually, karmically, cosmically, interdimensionally,
etc.
I get the She-Hulk shows a lighter tone in of itself. I don't think it's wrong to have characters be reshaped into more comedic forms. Daredevil really worked there, but the Abomination was a villain, and one that still had plenty of mileage to ruin Bruce Banner's life. Since Banner has had nowhere to go, the Abomination has had nowhere to go. Thunderbolt Ross fared better, taking on more supporting roles in Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame and Black Widow, obviously not getting to face off with Banner or explore his relationship to Betty, but his character was authentic as a thorn to superheroes everywhere. But isn't it mad that he shared the screen with Mark Ruffalo's Bruce for a few seconds in Infinity War, and then for a one take during Tony's funeral, and they're not even sharing the frame? It is so huge that we've lost the Thunderbolt Ross relationship to Betty Ross. Sure, Liv Tyler is rumoured to cameo in Brave New World, but it's going to be window dressing to the main story. Both Hulk 2003 and The Incredible Hulk delve into that wonderful three-pronged dynamic from the comics, in that Betty and Bruce love each other, and Betty loves her father loves her, but he is hell-bent on hunting the Hulk. Stripping that away from Ross and just making him a more generic, militaristic villain to the Avengers is less personal and ultimately inferior. I'm sure Harrison Ford is great as Ross, but it's kind of mad to think that even though the continuity isn't complete...
Harrison Ford is... Really? Thaddeus Ross?
Yep. Yeah, he's General Ross in the movie.
Is he grumpy the entire film? I don't want to do it.
Yeah, I don't. That's a bit of a weird casting, and I can't really remember his character entirely in the MCU.
Just ask him any question about Star Wars. Shut up.
Yeah, I don't know if he could really pull off the whole General Ross motif because, well, yeah, Ross is kind of. I would say General Ross is a bit like a similar vein to J. Jonah Jameson in terms of like, you could say, bluster and ranting.
Yeah, well.
I mean, his name is Thunderbolt Ross, and he wants to keep that title.
At this age, I think he's just doing it for the paycheck. I don't think he's doing it for the love of acting.
Yeah, he's old.
It's like I got bills to pay. Oh dear. I'm sure he's got some skills there, but it's just come on, MCU films, really.
Who remembers back when people were making edits of Hulk to make Red Hulk with Tim Roth's head on there? Those look great. And then we get friggin' Harrison Ford Red Hulk. I'm just like, it's still just Harrison Ford.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could say the same with like Mark Ruffalo, but that was mostly with Smart Hulk. Then 2012. I mean, I think they got different hair. I mean, I would have to look up the images, but yeah.
Well, I remember watching a Mark Ruffalo movie. I think it was yesterday, and I was like, "Is that Mark Ruffalo?" This was like 20 years ago. He made this film with Reese Witherspoon in 2005 called "Just Like Heaven," I think, where he's renting an apartment and she's like this person in a coma and her spirit is in the room. And I'm like, "What the hell?" I couldn't even wrap my brain around what was going on. Because she's a ghost, but she's not really a ghost. She's just in the room, but no one else can see her except for him. And I'm like, okay, this is the stupidest premise. And it's one of those things you watch on PBS or the WTN or whatever women's network you've got. I'm like, what? This is a thing? Like this was like a Steven Spielberg film. Like he actually got the rights to a book from 7 years prior, and they finally made it into a film. And I was like, is this how he was making movies all his life, late 90s, 2000s. Like he keeps making films, so I guess he was a shoo-in to fit in with the MCU. I don't know.
I guess.
I mean, I think he could. Maybe I guess it's a term of the look, but I don't know about performance. I mean, I don't know the story. I don't know actors like you two.
It was funny. It was funny to watch. Is that Mark Ruffalo? It's just like got the hair, maybe the throat, the sound of his voice was a little different. And I did some research. Like, yeah, that was him.
Yeah, I think in terms of like I get, this is a bit of art advice. Whenever you try to draw, I guess you could say Free of the Hulks with Professor Joe and Savage, the green one. Which Savage, hair's a lot more wilder, but the face, you get a bit more visible eyebrow and a bit more.
You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like going for the art head. With Joe Fixit, there's not too much eyebrow, but it's a bit more emphasized, and his hair is a bit shorter. He looks more like Frankenstein. With Professor, it's more human.
The Frankenstein influence was the whole point of the character early on when he was originally gray.
Yeah, he did look. Jack Kirby did art made him look a little handsome.
It was leaning. The original version of Hulk was leaning a lot more towards both Frankenstein's monster and Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah, I know, but it's like I know in the debut they made his face a little more like I guess you could say reminiscent of the monster. It looks a lot more prettier than.
Yeah, in his debut, he looked much closer to Frankenstein's monster, which again was the point.
Yeah, that's funny.
So yeah.
All right.
The character started all the way back in 2003's Hulk with Sam Elliott before the 2008 movie jettisoned its sequel status.
If by some chance he did survive, I'll try to get in touch. You'd tell me, wouldn't you?
No.
How mad to go from a multi-dimensional Ross to one that turns into a Red Hulk without Betty Ross or the Hulk to make any of it meaningful.
Yeah, but you want to know something really stupid?
Yes.
Betty does show up in the movie at the end.
Oh.
When everything is already over.
Oh.
So I'm just like, what was even the point if you were only gonna have her there for 2 minutes?
Speaking
when Ross is already in a cell.
And speaking of which, didn't they also wanted to show other two whole characters in that movie? Like firstly the leader, and then another one.
They finally followed up on the goddamn leader tease from Incredible Hulk, which I'm just like, it's wasted at this point.
Yeah, and then there's like the other one with Sabrina, which made a controversy because she's a Zionist. So yeah.
Which goddamn.
Anyway.
I mean, Hulk doesn't give a crap about the whole political crap. He would not take the disrespect. He killed a child. Like, no way. It's like, you're a liar. I didn't kill this child. You did over some stupid land. How could you? I am the realest boy.
Yeah, that whole stupid thing. Yeah, don't remind me. Anyway. Yeah, bud.
I mean, at least she actually regretted and took it. Didn't just stand it up after that. It would be like she just actually regret killing that child when Hulk left.
Well, better than nothing, honestly.
Red.
From a character that has been recast as many times as the Hulk himself, to one that has been surprisingly consistent 17 years later. The leader was of course set up in The Incredible Hulk, and then unceremoniously benched when the movie didn't get a sequel. I don't think that should have stopped Marvel though. Ultron was a fine pick, but the leader and his gamma antics could have easily occupied Avengers 2, perhaps even making up for the fact that Banner was one of the only core 6 Avengers not to get a solo movie in Phase 2. Regardless, now the leader is finally back, and I am hyped because he's an...
Hawkeye wasn't all that prominent in Phase 2 either, what are you on?
Yeah, I did get a lot of things about...
That's why they kinda overcorrected with introducing his family in Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
It's like they had to add something extra to make up for the fact that he was not featured all that much in Phase 2.
Yeah,
Widow was, and it was in Winter Soldier, which is again the best one.
Yeah, and the thing with like having like what is it, Hawkeye and Black Widow instead of like Hank and Jan for the founding members, besides I guess Captain America. There. It's
Widow
like,
and Hawkeye being founding members was a thing for decades already. So
was it a thing for a decade? I mean,
it was at least a thing before the Avengers movie came out.
Yeah, I think they were in like the Ultimate Comics, but I don't think Hawkeye was there. So Wasp and Giant.
They were by the time of Avengers 2012. They were at least members of the Avengers at all for years prior to that movie coming out. So at least they had something going for them there.
Yeah. Even though in the comics it was a bit more.
And part of it was also the fact
Hawkeye, who actually led a lot of teams in the comics, like the West Coast, Wonderbolt.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and also it was also the fact that they changed out Hank and Janet for Widow and Hawkeye. No. I mean, I'm talking about the Avengers. I was like, they switched out Hank and Janet for Widow and Hawkeye because of the fact that the whole kerfuffle that happened with the original version of the Ant-Man movie that was going to come out in Phase 1, but it was scrapped.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to change the lineup as a result of pushing the Ant-Man movie back.
Alright.
So there's that whole knot that was tied, that ended up being loosened by the time the actual Ant-Man movie came out, where it was Scott as the lead, which honestly I was fine with at that point in the MCU.
If I can recall from one thing from a video, wasn't Hank's daughter Hope based on was it a villain from the MC2 comics, where it's like 15 years later? The Red Queen.
Remember? Yeah, I'm trying to remember. It might have been. Yeah, it was the Red. The Red Queen. Yeah, Red Queen. Yeah, I remember. Wasn't that like the counterpart to Yellow Jacket?
I guess more or less, but the thing or deal is that she hates Scott's daughter. Like a whole vendetta against Scott's daughter.
That whole thing. But yeah, to go back to the video, it's like, honestly, the leader would have been a better big villain choice than Ultron at that point. They could have saved Ultron for later, honestly. If we're being completely honest. So, yeah, I kind of do agree with this point.
Was one of the only core 6 Avengers not to get a solo movie in Phase 2. Regardless, now the leader is finally back, and I am hyped because he's an awesome cerebral villain, but isn't it just once again so odd that he's going to face Cap before the Hulk? I'm sure he could still face Bruce somewhere down the line, but it's still strange that we've waited all these years, and now he's going to get paired up with a character he has no connection to. The supposed universe-wide reboot of the MCU that is set to happen after Secret Wars will benefit the X-Men, integrating them into this world, but I think it could most of...
No more X-Men, please. Just let it go.
No. You're screwing everything over with the timeline as it is.
Yeah, but again, the keyword reboot, so they can do it over.
Jeez.
All benefit the Hulk. I'm sure Tom Holland's Spidey, the new Fantastic Four, and many more will stick around alongside the Age of Mutants, but Mark Ruffalo is nearly 60, I think he's done pretty much all there is to do with this version of Banner.
There's been multiple rumours that we're getting a Hulk vs Wolverine movie, and I think we're all naturally assuming it's going to be Jackman and Ruffalo coming to blows. But what if it's a chance to reboot both characters in one movie and give us exciting new iterations? From there, we could get a whole new Hulk trilogy, done right with the villains in the driving seat.
Why not go...
You know, we already technically did have a trilogy, something like that. It was called the Lionsgate Animated Films, unironically.
Yeah, it was called the Lionsgate Animated Films. Did a much better job of making Hulk contemporary in the way the MCU tried and failed to do.
Oh, yeah.
God damn.
Blank slate with... Give us a new actor and reset the whole thing. The MCU will need to diversify its stories in order to survive, so why not go back to the dramatic and dark storytelling of Hulk 2003? You can start the awesome action of Hulk 2008 even. I would say the best Hulk movie is still yet to come, one which is a blend of those two solo movies. A movie that cuts to the heart of Banner, the tragedy, the childhood, the cycles of abuse, the rage, but also the hope, the optimism, the goodness inherent to the character, character that faces off against his wonderful array of villains. The leader must face the Hulk on screen one day, and it must have epic action to boot.
Is that all you've got?
Are you annoyed the Hulk's biggest villains aren't facing the Hulk? Do you think?
Yeah, again, if you want that leader Hulk versus leader fight, just play the game for the 2003 movie.
Do you want to see Ruffalo fight Wolverine or
the
engage
90s
in World War
cartoon.
Hulk? Let me know.
Yeah, if you want to go even further, yeah.
I don't think we need to see live action
Alright,
Wolverine versus Hulk. That'd be kind of weird.
We already had
I mean-
animation. Oh yeah.
Yeah, we literally have the animated version for that too. So I'm just like, it would at this point it would just be redundant.
Yeah.
Below, and please leave a like if you
Also,
enjoyed
if they
this video.
do make that
Next
film,
up
don't
is a
call it
two-week
Avengers.
recap double whammy.
Don't
Videos
call
on
it
both
Avengers
Rogers
World War
and
Hulk.
Booth.
Seriously.
You want me?
Again, the MCU has an Avengers centric problem, where it's like the Avengers are the center of everything, even though. Even in the source material, they're just one aspect of the universe.
You know, if you want to know something to add on your point, Ginga, Hulk is actually central to the Avengers forming in the first place. That I'm pretty sure there was a comic where Kang the Conqueror wanted to use Hulk to pretty much kill his Bruce Banner's ancestor, so the Avengers wouldn't form.
Oh god, yeah, I remember that.
And there was like a what if comic in two situations where it's like, if Hulk didn't get tricked by Loki and whatnot, the Avengers wouldn't have formed, which would cause problems.
Although, it was like, in more recent versions of that original founding, they make Loki the central catalyst for the Avengers forming in the first place.
That was my
Which-
point! That's my point, exactly.
Yeah, I'm just like, what the hell? And even back during the original founding, Cap wasn't even there yet. Cap hadn't been discovered in the ice yet when the Avengers were formed.
Yeah, that was a few issues later, but...
That a few issues later, and that's how they brought Rogers back officially.
All right. Well, I think we're done with the video, and we do have some memes, I believe.
We have quite a few, yeah.
Oh my god!
Starting with Cyberfrog.
Well, these aren't memes; these are actual comic panels, so I don't know.
It doesn't relevant to the topic, so at least that.
Okay, Hulk straight? What is that? Is that a reference to punching, or is that a reference to his sexuality?
That's the ultimate comics Hulk.
The old-
He's
the-
a horny cannibal for a woman that hates him.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Ultimate. Oh, jeez.
Oh yeah, Ultimate is like it's not worth going back to at this point. It's just
Legacy. What'd you post here?
Oh yeah, there's some panels where Banner was visiting his mother's grave, but then his father joined them, got out of the institution just so he could visit his wife's grave. But then,
wasn't Bruce already the Hulk at this point?
no, this is before he became the Hulk.
Oh, this is before the Gamma Bomb.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm surprised that this interaction happened. I'm just like, Brian Banner is a dick.
Damage is done. What is this about?
Oh,
Well, like it says,
DC's,
like it says, DC's attempt at making their own Hulk,
Oh,
and the character is called Damage.
interesting. Didn't know that. Oh no!
Oh.
The MCU Virgin Hulk versus.
Yeah, let's look at this quick. All right, the MCU version Hulk versus the Chad Ang Lee Hulk. All right, Virgin Hulk only had one movie while literally all of his peers get sequels. Yeah, that's sad. Had to be squeezed into other movies to get some form of plot. That, to be fair, that was because Universal partially owned the rights as well, and still do. Got his ass beat by some frog-faced purple dude from space, aka Grimace. Want Planet Hulk? Have Thor Ragnarok instead. 50 years worth of lore is being tossed like BK food wrapper. Studio is too incompetent to try another solo film, and apparently claiming that Brave New World is that sequel, which no, it's not.
Why?
Played by two different actors when everyone else stayed in their roles. Yeah, that was weird when that happened. Video game based off the first film, poorly retold plot elements from the movie at main plot.
It was the one with Kamala, with the robots and crap.
No, but based off the first film, which I assume is Incredible Hulk.
No. Wait.
Video game based off first film, poorly retold plot elements from movie as main plot. I'm assuming that's the Incredible Hulk game.
Yeah, I can't. There's other things.
And lol, Hulk toss puny gods around. Hulk so funny. Yeah, it's like The last thing you want to associate with Hulk is comedy. All right. Chad Lee Hulk, brave enough to start his own solo movie and plan a sequel with the same cast, which got canceled, unfortunately. Video game is canon as a sequel with original story and a ton of iconic comic villains and even established fighting moves used in Ultimate Destruction. Left more of an impact than later reboot, for better or worse. Dealt with child abuse, animal testing, murder, and emotional instability in a mature and dark nature, which is the nuance that we lost, by the way, with the MCU. Mm-hmm. A decent portrayal of a modern take on the comic origins, from Bruce's family problems to a radiation device exploding in his face. Which, while it's not the gamma bomb, it still gets the point across. Punched mutant dogs in the crotch, tossed tanks miles away with his bare hands, covers miles in a single leap, catches missiles and spits them back at choppers, and shrugged off a direct shot from a tank.
Defeated his villain dad with the powers to absorb and control nature just by screaming at it.
Well, yeah, that's because he channeled his gamma power into his dad.
He just got really fucking pissed.
And the iconic line from this Hulk, "puny human," which is taken from a scene where Hulk is knocked unconscious in the air, and he gets knocked unconscious. A dream sequence happens between Hulk and Banner, and then the whole thing of grabbing Banner through the mirror, that was representative of Hulk taking control forcefully from Bruce in order for them to not die on impact. So yeah, we lost a lot with the MCU with the Hulk in regards to the MCU. A fuck ton, even.
And then we'll get to the next one with my favorite issue,
which is another dream sequence.
Well, this is in Versus Mind by was it Rain?
Well, yeah, it was it's regular Hulk, Grey Hulk, Banner, and Devil Hulk.
No, that's Guild Hulk.
Guild Hulk, okay.
Yeah, the Guild Hulk's all more elongated and could break your back.
Isn't that the part of Bruce that blames himself for everything the Hulk does?
And an embodiment of his father.
Isn't that the embodiment of his father, of being the version of his father that he doesn't want anything to do with?
Basically, his father at his worst.
Yeah. There is a lot of nuance and a lot of depth to the Hulk. It's not just Hulk smash, honestly. And meanwhile, here's a version of the original Grey Hulk from the initial comics.
Yeah, that one was not. Maybe the art style is not my favorite, but it's fine. Yeah.
I mean, it's a recreation. It's like it's not going to be 1-to-1, but it's the fact that the original art from the early comics really cemented the Frankenstein influence.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you can look at this at your own time. It's just like a moment of Hulk actually calming the fuck down and actually, and then being forced into a situation.
Well, not forced, but kind of requested.
Yeah, guys, I've run out of old music to listen to, and I have to start listening to stuff made in the last 10 years.
Well, that's the same. That's the same reaction to people with the new MCU. It's like, do I really want to watch the new stuff?
Yeah, it's hilarious. And meanwhile, the other one, it's hilarious that we almost saw this happen in Endgame. What was this going to accomplish? I mean, getting the gauntlet.
Take out a few ships, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, no, it's Ant-Man. Well, it's Thor. No, not what Thor. It's Hulk throwing Spider-Man after Giant Man throws Hulk. So that probably could have been a maneuver to take the gauntlet. I don't know, the nano gauntlet at the end of the movie. So
I don't think that makes any sense in physics, but okay, that's.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, Hulk could definitely throw harder than Giant Man. Let's be honest.
Well, yeah.
This is the same dude that threw Fing Fang Foom to the moon.
Yes, a giant Hulk, right?
No, that's Iron Man's biggest op.
No. I mean, who threw Fing Fang Foom to the moon?
Hulk threw Fing Fang Foom.
Yeah, that was my question. Yeah, but and meanwhile, here's a Hulk in the Fantastic Four cartoon, World's Greatest Heroes, which is very underrated, honestly.
The voice reverb is a bit annoying.
That is stupid, but on the flip side, the actual quality of the show is still pretty high.
What is this? The downfall of Hulk hands?
Yeah, the Hulk hand toys. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Interesting. Weird, but interesting.
And then the case where Hulk just casually just grabs the Iron Fist.
I think the ones on the top right are for Abomination. I think.
The top right? What do you mean?
In the image of the Hulk hands image, I think the hands on the top right.
Abomination hands on the.
Yeah, that was Abomination, and then the one for Red Hulk. And I think the one on the bottom middle is for the Thing. I think just miscolored.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Iron Fist. It's like Hulk is so strong that he can even stop Iron Fist's energy punch.
The what was it? That thing that was stated to be as powerful as like a little baby bomb, and Hulk just grabbed that shit.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of a. It's pretty close to the power of a fucking nuke, and Hulk just no-sells it.
It even exploded in his own head and knocked him
Yeah.
out.
It's like Hulk is a lot stronger than people give him credit for. Meanwhile, what the fuck is this?
Oh.
This is why you don't skip leg day or lip day.
Oh, that was hideous.
What the?
Alrighty. What is this?
What is this?
Is that
the whole toilet?
Is it AI art or is that something that's real?
I feel like it's AI art, but I wouldn't be surprised if someone actually makes that.
Yeah, I don't want to sit on that one.
I would not sit on that one.
The angle does not look like it's.
I'm pretty sure it's AI. You know what? Looking at it again, and also looking at the mirror a bit, it is probably AI art.
Yeah, don't think about it too much.
Oh, and then this shit from the She-Hulk show.
Oh no, just forget about that.
Where some random idiot pumps himself with the gamma blood and becomes another Hulk. I'm just like, wow.
Yeah, and also the next one. That's actually my art.
Soy Virgin Smart Hulk, Giga Chat Professor Hulk.
Well,
we can look at that in our own time.
We've already gone through one of those.
That's another art thing I posted, but yeah.
Hulk smashes everything and they call him incredible. I do it and I'm an ass who needs to learn to control his temper.
Oh yeah, you're not a giant green rage monster.
You're incredible Hulk. You won't like me when I'm angry because I always back up my rage with facts and documented sources. Oh god, that sounds like the bird. Oh, that sounds like the bird, man. Shut up.
The credible Hulk. That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Why don't they put ads on the Hulk? He is basically a giant banner. Oh, Jesus.
Come on.
You know what? As much as I want to boo that.
Fine.
All right. It's a pun.
Next one's my art. I think we're gonna have to kill this windbag, Jennifer. Drat. I wanted to be more authentic. That's why I didn't want to call her Jenner because Joe Fixit doesn't refer to Rick Jones as Rick Jones because he doesn't like him.
What does Joe call Rick though?
Mostly some insulting thing, but he doesn't call him Rick Jones unless if it's meaningful.
All right. From the Critical Drinker, at one point in Captain America 4, Sam Wilson uses Ant-Man's helmet, Steve Rogers' shield, and Falcon's wings coated with Black Panther's vibranium to fight a Hulk. And I think that's a perfect metaphor for how laughably cobbled together this film is. Yeah, hell yeah.
They knew it's a mismatch. They knew it was a mismatch, man.
They had to give him so many crutches, I swear to God.
And he still would have gotten cooked anyway.
Yep.
He still would have been cooked, literally.
Oh yeah, next generation of Avengers, and now the Revengers. Yeah, that was actually a thing. That wasn't just a one-off gag in Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Big man, Red Queen, Iron Man, Killer Watt, and Saberclaw.
Yeah, let's see, Saberclaw is one of Wolverine's kids, if I remember.
What?
Is he? Really?
Yeah,
he looks like more like Sabretooth's kid, though. What the hell?
Yeah, no, he's Logan's kid.
That's
there was another one called Wild Thing, who was, if I recall,
he honest to God looks like Victor's kid. Seriously.
Yeah.
And the leader, and then what was that? Red Hulk.
These are the offenders.
This was Red Hulk, Mordo. Forget the other two.
Tiger Shark and Pterodax.
Oh, okay, thank you. Uh, yeah.
Unrelated meme. I lost my kids. I lost my parents.
Okay.
Oh.
That's stupid, but it's funny, but in a funny way.
What is
And
this?
then the final one, the time Bruce was killed by Clint Barton and replaced by
Oh yeah, they did. Yeah, Bruce was killed by Hawkeye at one point.
Which apparently was by his own request and something Hawkeye would never do because some stupid Minority Reporting girl was doing with an Inhuman kid.
I mean, the idea that he would entrust Hawkeye with the kill as a last resort is not out of left field either. It's just,
I mean,
as I always say with these kinds of things, it's a matter of execution.
I would not expect Hot Clint to actually take that execution because, well, I don't think he would actually kill.
It's the fact that the way it actually happened, he took the kill for no fucking reason because he was still Banner when he did it. We know still Banner, and he was being confronted by by Carol's side in the. Oh yeah, it was in Civil War 2.
Yeah, that was the whole thing was just stupid. It'd be like, why would Hawkeye even do it if it's not gonna happen?
Dude, Civil War was already a shit story as it is, and then they make another one, and it's 10 times worse.
Yeah, let's listen to this Inhuman kid. That's like a worse version.
This is why, and just to finish this point, so we can call it the movie, the Civil War movie. Just to say this again, is one of the better adaptations of any comic book story out there because they genuinely give right points and wrong points to both sides and make you genuinely think which one is in the right.
I would contend for the Lionsgate Ultimate Avengers film, at least the first one.
Yeah, that's still one of the top tier adaptations, honestly. Yeah, even though it takes from the Ultimate Universe, but still.
They improved so much on it. It should have been.
I was gonna say. On the other hand, they improved on pretty much everything they took.
Absolutely, that's a freaking.
But yeah, just to finish off with the damn videos, like Hulk has absolutely gotten the short end of the stick, all because of the reception to the Ang Lee film. Even though the Ang Lee film has been one of the most accurate adaptations to the Hulk stories of old, and one of the best representations of who and what the Hulk is and how his stories actually work. So it's a crying shame how much the Hulk has devolved in live action to this day since then. 22 years later, and the Hulk isn't even around anymore. And people claiming that, again, Brave New World is the Incredible Hulk sequel that was always meant to be. And I'm just like, okay, where's Bruce then in this fucking movie? I haven't seen him for 1 second of footage.
And Red Hulk exists, even though, for sure, the reason he became Red Hulk in the first place is because of beef he had with Banner.
Which by that time in the MCU, he did still have, even as late as Endgame. Which, I'm just like, when I mean, remember when they came back in Infinity War to the Avengers compound? It's like, Ross was very much... It's like, out of everyone in that room, Banner was the one that he had the most hatred for, still, even after everything that happened. So...
Yeah, because... I mean, I don't think they even mentioned that, because this is not the War of Dogs story where Bruce was practically framed for killing Betty by...
Yeah.
You could say doing the Spider-Man story reign with the semen thing, but that was...
Wasn't that a what if, though?
No, that was not like a what if.
Wasn't that an Elseworlds?
No, that was not an Elseworld thing. The whole thing, Blonsky poisoned Betty and made it look like Banner had sex with her, and that made her poisoned.
Oh god. Yeah, you see the kind of, for as fucked up as that is, you see what we've lost with the Hulk since the 2000s. I'm just like, Hulk has never been the same after the Ang Lee film. The Ang Lee film was the last thing to actually get the character right, and it's been nothing but a downward spiral from there, and that's just sad.
Mm-hmm.
That's just tragic at this point.
Well, I don't know what the film's going to be like. I haven't seen any reviews regarding its scoring or...
It's already bombing at the box office, so...
About a 52, if I remember.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this was not about that film. This was about the Hulk specifically, so...
And they're banking on that film so much that they literally did some haphazard put-together cross-promotion with Marvel Rivals because they know Marvel Rivals is bigger than the MCU at this point, and they're trying to capitalize. Trying and failing, by the way.
All right, we're getting too far.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that.
Anyway, thanks, guys. That was a different video about not necessarily the film that just came out, but in relation to, and I think that was
leading up to it.
Yeah, it's not a review of the film because we could do that anytime. Anyone does a review of the film. So that was a very interesting take on.
It was the most of it. It was a pretty decent look at at live action Hulk from Ang Lee to now. Honestly,
yeah. I think he should have touched upon Ragnarok just a bit more and Endgame a bit more.
I mean, Ragnarok did nothing to advance the character, though. That's
what
why.
I mean. I wanted to see all the steps that they did it wrong and why it could be better and why it's not.
I mean, I can forgive it because we know what led up to the Endgame crap. So, like, it's out there in the wild at this point. People now are looking back at that, and I'm just like, yeah, this was not all that good in general, let alone for the Hulk. So.
Anyway, thank you guys for your time. That was interesting for me. I'm not an MCU guy or a Marvel movie watching fellow, so news to me. Always cool to see what Disney is up to and what fans are expecting. I don't think there's that much hype, though. I haven't heard many people talk about it in my circles, so I'm like, okay, maybe it's just a lukewarm reception in the past 5 years.
I've only heard, and in terms of the movie that came out today, I've only heard it like mentioned in passing ever so often because it's like they are really trying to bank on like, oh, Red Hulk, oh, it's like Captain America, Sam Wilson. I'm just like, guys, you have gone way too far with the stuff you're doing with the MCU for the past few years. I'm just like, people are getting sick of it. People are getting tired of it. People are catching on.
Yeah, you're just fitting too many pieces in the wrong positions. You're just slamming them and then gluing them with like a.
They are literally just to finish this point. It's like they are throwing shit at the wall, hoping what sticks, and nothing is sticking, and they're paying the price for it.
Uh-oh, feels like another sequel trilogy problem. Anyway,
it's been happening for years.
It's been happening with the entire industry for years, and people finally are catching on.
Well,
hopefully more people catch on and realize, like, hey, this is shit. We want better stuff.
I mean, they literally told you, Loki. Everything that happened back then, that was all us. We predetermined that crap, and it was like, oh, yeah.
Well, these films have been in production for several years, so all this stuff that's been worked on is now coming out and seeing the light of day. And I think that's going to change very soon. At least the next 3 years, whenever they do make their next MCU film, or if they make any more. I have no idea if they're going to keep doing this.
The next couple, like in the near future, we are going to get 2 more Avengers movies. So I'm just like, boy, we're going to see more the train wreck, even more now. So we'll just wait and see what happens with that.
Yeah. Okay.
But if anyone wants to watch at least a decent Hulk movie, I swear to God, just go back to the Ang Lee movie. If you really are like a big fan of the Hulk and of the old stories and whatnot, just watch the 2003 movie and maybe play Ultimate Destruction on the side. Whatever.
Don't forget the end stuff. No.
We had it good back then, and then we lost it. Case in point.
Okay. Well, thanks guys for your time. We will talk to you soon. Keep the suggestions coming, and we'll see what we'll cover next. Have yourself a great evening. Good night.
All right.
Hulk.